a Pot 1 funding request from Restore. A portion of that request was for building a greenhouse. It came to our attention when the only proposal came in that the scope of that work was greater than what we had anticipated it to be. So what we would like to do is reject that bid due to it being extremely over budget, to redraft the scope to be more specific as to what they are looking for and to re-advertise that on their behalf.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second, any discussion? Any discussion from the audience? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay.
Thank
No, pass 5-0.
you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Next item is requesting direction from staff regarding the 10-acre parcel immediately north of Helen McCall Park and to the east of Mole Drive. We had that property was presented to the board for consideration for park expansion, parking and such. We've had a couple of conflicting environmental reports as to how much of that land is actually usable. So before we move any further, what we would request the board direct staff to do is to have our environmental department take a hard look at what's there, and if they need some additional expertise or additional assistance in coming to some conclusions, to utilize the services of one of our continuing servicing engineers to produce a more specific and more detailed wetland study. We've had some conversation with the Catholic Church just north of that property that is interested in buying or is interested in acquiring a couple of the acres. So we've got to make sure there's enough usable land there to make it worthwhile. I can tell you that one of the reports we had showed that that was not the case. So before we move forward and get too deep into it, we want to be sure that there is usable space that either for park use or for parking. So A, part of that's an update, and B is asking your permission to utilize the services of one of our continuing services engineering continuing contracts. Gets a little tangled up there. If our staff needs that assistance. Otherwise, we'll move forward and just bring you back a report at a later date.
If you need a motion, so moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Any discussion from the audience? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay.
Thank you, Commissioners. The next item is a request to re-advertise and, if need be, cancel RFP 019-022 for the Country Club Restaurant Bar Operator, and let us redraft that document in the scope of services. We got no responses, no replies, therefore we don't have any bids to reject. But we think there may be some opportunities if we broaden our scope of what we're looking for, that there's a bar, there's a restaurant, there's a bar and restaurant, there's some public space that can be used, and allow that to be broken out in a proposal if some were to choose to, as opposed to one lease for the whole property. So our request is to redraft that request for proposals and get it back on the street in a different format than what the original was, in hopes that we can generate some interest in proposals.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Mr. Chapman?
Is that motion also to cancel the RFP 019-22?
I think that's what.
Is
Yeah,
that what you-
and that may not be necessary because there were no responses to it, and the time frame is ran on it, but in abundance of caution, we can certainly add that to the motion to cancel it.
Yeah.
Who seconded it?
Trey, do you?
I'll second that, and I'm for that. But when we do re-advertise that, we need to get creative.
Yes, sir.
When it comes to that, because we really gotta, it takes a special person to go in there and run that as a restaurant and as a bar. I
You
mean,
want to quit this job and go do that?
Nah, well, I've thought about it at times. But yeah, it takes a special person to do that, and I would be willing to help in any way.
Okay.
To help
Be glad-
direct y'all in that direction when we
Be
do
glad
that.
to use that.
So,
Thank you.
Anything else from the board? Anything from the audience? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay.
Thank you, Commissioners. You've previously requested that we look at County Road 393 and 38 intersection for improvements. I believe Mr. Powell has done some research on that and has some thoughts to share with you.
Chance Powell for the record. Good afternoon. 393-38 intersection, as you know, Atkins did a update to the 2006 Genesis study that was done on 38. They did that in 2016. They looked at many intersections on 38, 393 being one of them. At that time, in 2016, traffic volumes warranted a signal at that intersection. They recommended turn lane approaches at both the east-west and southbound approach. If we look to doing a signal there, I think we need to go ahead and consider turn lanes at all four approaches. I also think we need to look at roadway improvements to the east all the way to Spooky Lane, to the west to Spires Lane, and to the north to Spires Lane, because a lot of the parallel parking that's in there now will have to be taken out for the turn lane construction. And I think there's some opportunities to replace some of that parking on 30A back to the east and the west. If it's the board's wishes, we'll be glad to put together a task order and get an engineering study, engineering design done on it. We've got money in proportionate fair share for 30A to do that work. And then once we get the design done, we could look maybe at the next year looking, trying to figure out how to budget construction.
Did I understand, you did say that the traffic counts warranted it, right?
The traffic volumes warranted it. I think the study, what it said was in 2016, the four-way stop intersection was operating at about a level C minus. It was functioning, but volumes warranted a signal.
I don't think anybody disagrees with that.
What's the board's wishes?
You need a motion to proceed with the engineering? What's the next step?
I guess maybe the next step would.
I think you would draft a task order for one of the continuing servicing engineers to bring back to the board approval, and once that's approved, then we'll present that task to whoever the next on the rotating list is to begin that design work.
That's the motion.
Okay.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any
Need to get
discussion?
started.
Any discussion from the audience? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay.
Thank you, Commissioners. The next item is,
We move that to the, did we move it?
would you move?
We moved that one. Right. So
Yeah, we move that consent.
Okay. Grant application.
The request to,
No, I'm on.
yeah, did get you to 26? Item number 26.
Okay, I got it.
All right. This is a request to approve and authorize the chair to sign a site access agreement to allow APTM Environmental and Infrastructure LLC, who are doing contract work for the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, to enter the golf course property in Defuniak for the purpose of performing data collection and assessment and remediation activities with an off-site petroleum contamination. There are currently 2 monitoring wells on the property, and if I've got it right, it's from the old Gulf station that migrated south to what is now our property. We have no exposure, no liability. This doesn't create any exposure liability. It simply gives the contractor the ability to access the property, to make determinations to what contamination is there, to what levels and what mitigation needs to go on in order for it to go away. It's not something that's going to happen tomorrow or probably next year, but it's a continuing process. If you're familiar with the site at the park just north of the bridge, very similar situation. So this simply allows them to gain access to our property to take care of the things they need to take care of to eventually get the site cleaned up or mitigated or whatever needs to happen to it.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Any discussion from the audience? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay.
Next item is a request to approve and authorize the chair to sign a resolution with the Florida Department of Transportation Small County Road Assistance Program Grant Agreement. And this is for the resurfacing of County Road 0605. This is our typical projects that we work with through the FDOT. I believe Commissioner Nipper has indicated that due to a conflict, she has filled out the appropriate paperwork and will not participate in the vote on this item.
Correct.
So noted.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Any discussion from the audience? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Let the record show it was 4-0 with Commissioner Nipper abstaining.
Next item is request to approve and authorize the chair to sign change order number 2 to contract number 018-039. This is the Bay Grove Park seawall renovation with R.J. Gorman Marine Construction, increasing the contract price by $17,600 and the contract time by 45 calendar days. The increase in cost is due to additional work we're asking them to do, and the additional time is primarily due to the fact that this is a Panama City-based company, and obviously with the hurricane, they've had issues there to deal with. So we thought that was the least we could do is work with them to make sure they don't would cause more grief than what they're dealing with over there.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Any discussion from the audience? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Mr. Tusa.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. So we have quite a bit on the agenda today, so hopefully we can kind of see if we can move through some of this, we won't be here all night. So the first item, number 29, request approval to revise the beach activities ordinance chapter 22 to include a section of for commercial scuba charters. Code revision and adoption process would include rules and regulations specific to scuba diving industry to be determined by a stakeholder committee. So this request came to the TDC, and it started in both our Destination Improvement Committee and in our Beach Management Committee, where we cleared both those committees and went on to the TDC Council, and it was heard by them at their last meeting last week, and they made the recommendation to move it forward to the board for consideration. So what we are looking at is we have obviously the fishing charters that go out on Inlet Beach and Grayton Beach, and so with the success of the SWARA and the reefs that we're putting in and the UMA, the Underwater Museum of Art, we are looking for ways to transport people from the beach to the diving sites. And so we had an individual come forward who's looking to start a business to transport people back and forth. And so they are looking for an opportunity for a permit to launch off of Grayton or Inlet Beach. And so the recommendation from the council was for the board to consider this. And Brian and I discussed this, and we think it might be prudent to maybe form a little committee to kind of look at all the pitfalls that may be in this and all the good things that might be in this, and then bring it back for the board's consideration. Currently, there are 15 permits off of Grayton Beach, and those are all grandfathered. Now, if one of those were to give up their permit, then that permit would be lottery-based. So that's kind of where we are with that. And so the thought process was if we wanted to add more permits to the beach, we could, but that's just something that needs to be examined and a recommendation made, whether we want to do that, if we want to do it for a certain number, but it's just something for the board to consider.
Jay, what was,
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, what was the reason, I've never really, even on Google, gone back on minutes, what was the real reason we were limited to 15 charter boats at the time, or 15 charter permits at the time? Is it safety? I couldn't find anything.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we can
I mean,
make
there's got to be a
that,
reason, and I'm just concerned
Yeah.
that if we open it to one scuba operator, and I am avid about scuba diving,
Yeah.
how many permits are we going to allow? So.
I think that's something we'd have to explore if the board gives us
I can only see that it was
direction.
a safety consideration at the time. I don't know.
And I think you're right, and just as going off memory, but, and I would assume the minutes may reflect, but there was some discussion about parking. How many could you logistically get there, get the boats out, and get the trucks and trailers moved somewhere safely? I think was, if I recall, the discussion was primarily what it boiled down to. Was, without some number, and 15 may have been an arbitrary number, I'm not sure, that the beach could be full of boat trucks or boat trailers from folks launching, and some of them being charters and otherwise. So I think that's what you'll find, but I would rely on some research.
Yeah, we could certainly research that.
Is there a limit, or do we know if there's a limit that the state allows us to have?
I'm not sure, but that's something we can certainly research as
Okay.
part of this committee as well. You know that we were required to limit the number of grandfathered driving on the beach
Yeah.
permit, so that may have something to do with it as well, but we can research that.
Okay.
And, if the board doesn't want to form a committee, we can certainly just give direction to staff to look at these little bits of information and bring it back to you at a future meeting once we get all the information together, but that just depends on however y'all want to handle it.
Well, I'm very concerned that we might be stepping over a line, and it's not that I'm against scuba diving. I've never done much of it, but I'm fascinated by it. And we have a great opportunity for scuba diving with the things we have out there now. I worry, and I want this research before we decide to go forward on this at all, that we're not stepping over some line with the state that's going to cause us problems. So I'm not sure we need a committee.
I was going to say, why don't just
right now. I
staff just
think
go and
staff
research
needs to-
that?
And please feel free to jump in and disagree with me if you do, but I feel like staff needs to find out the legal and the, just the safety issue of doing it, so before you bring it back and we vote on it.
Any other things you want us to address, just for staff to look into and bring back, and then you can decide how you want to move forward from there? Or just those couple of items?
I just got a feeling, and I may be wrong, that 15 was, I'm just wondering if DEP said, hey, that's it. And I may be wrong, I don't know. I wasn't on the board and certainly wasn't a fisherman or a scuba diver, but I'm not opposed to, but I think we got some issues that we need to look into before we even decide.
Well, I'll be happy to get the answers to those questions, bring it back, and then you can decide.
Mr. Chairman, so this request is just so we can have more than 15 on the beach, is that what we're saying?
Yeah, this would be a X number of boats being launched for strictly scuba diving. And I think we need to check all the ins and outs before we even decide to vote on it. Right now, we don't know anything about it, and I don't think we need to form a committee yet to do that, but I think we need to direct staff to, let's research this and see if it's even possible before we decide to vote on it.
Agreed. Because I think it's going to be DEP has put some parameters
I
in
do
place
too.
back in the day, and this may be the max that we can possibly put out there.
Okay.
And we've all probably got a bunch of emails concerning the congestion with the fishermen as it is and the safety concerns that's out there.
Okay. We'll be happy to get the answer to those questions and bring them back to you at the next meeting.
Thank you.
So the next several items all relate to property appraisals. A while back, the board authorized staff to move forward in obtaining property appraisals for quite a bit of parking and one beach access parcel. And so they're on the list here. I have them individually just so we can address them individually. And so we're going to start off with number 30, update and request direction on property appraisals for 2100 block of County Highway 30A West, parcel numbers 12-3S-20-34.
Mr. Tusa, can I interrupt you a second?
Well, I was going to
Yes.
say, you don't have to read all the parcel ID numbers.
Okay, great, thank you.
My understanding in looking at the numbers, all of these parcels came in overpriced as according to appraisals, am I correct?
You are correct, and so some are much more over appraised value, and some are kind of aligned, maybe something we can negotiate on. So I don't know if you want to go line by line, or what you want to do, but you tell me, and we'll proceed that way.
This is my opinion, that I think that we need to give you authority to negotiate and bring it back to us at a later date.
Okay.
Because looking at these numbers, you know, I'm not sure we can do this.
I agree.
So, and I'm not sure we need to really even worry about it until you see, you may come back and say, hey, there's no room for negotiation. Then we need to vote on it.
So you want to just do that for all of them? That's the direction?
I think so.
I do too.
Is that the board's wish?
I agree with that, because there's quite a bit of spread between
There is.
what it was appraised out and what the asking price
You
is.
just
And
made
we
my
don't
day.
even know if they'll negotiate with us, so I agree, allow staff to go forward
Okay.
to see if there's any room for negotiation.
Okay,
So moved then.
Second.
real quick if I could, just before you vote on that. So there's one piece of property that I'm sure you've been getting a lot of emails and calls on, because I certainly have. And so just wanted to get direction on the board from this one specific piece of property, but it is the one on Pompano Street. And so obviously the folks in Inlet Beach have some concerns about this and how it corresponds with their neighborhood plan. And so is that something that you still want me to move forward with and negotiate on that one particular parcel?
I'm
In addition
not
to all the
going
ones?
to modify my motion. It's all of them, look at them all, and part of that due diligence is to look at the neighborhood plan at Inlet Beach to make sure there isn't any conflict with that.
Okay?
If there
Go
is, I'm sorry,
Go
Mr.
ahead.
Chairman.
Yeah, Tracy.
Yes.
Tracy.
If there is a conflict, it seems as if once a municipality takes over that parcel, it's different set of rules, but I want to know because there has been a lot of discussion regarding this Inlet Beach property and their neighborhood plan.
Yeah, let's make sure that all the people out there that are concerned, that we look at their concerns and make sure that it is or it isn't.
Okay.
Before we bring it back.
Okay.
And, you know, it's, all of these are above the appraised value. So even if we decide to vote on any of them, it still has to be a 4-to-1 vote to approve.
Correct.
So,
Mr. Chairman, Max standing right there, he could probably answer that real quick.
let's just wait and bring it back at the next meeting.
Okay.
And because I want you and Mac to work together with the Inlet Beach people, and let's see, like I say, all of these are over our appraised value.
Right.
So you'll get your chance, Mr. Bagley. So anyway, let's,
Okay, well, yeah, I've got something to bring up after we take a vote on this.
okay. Huh? Yeah, I am. Any other discussion from the board? All right, public comments.
And just so it's clear for everyone in the audience, this is on items 30 through 34, and the motion before the board is for staff to negotiate prices on each of those items, and then also look into the Inlet Beach neighborhood plan to see whether parking would be allowed at 240 Pompano Street.
Okay. Jim Bagby, B-A-G-B-Y. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, you just said something that gave me a pause, that you have Jay bring it back to the next meeting. I would ask that you modify the motion to bring it back to the next meeting
I
down
thought
here.
I meant to say bring it back at another meeting.
Okay.
I don't know if I said the next meeting.
Yeah,
If
you
I
did.
I-
And so
I
I'd
changed
like
it.
for it to be heard down here. We
As
seem
would
to have
I.
a problem.
As would I.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Rich Jaffe. It's J-A-F-F-E. I'm here as a homeowner and also as the president of the Historic Inlet Beach Neighborhood Association, and perhaps I can help you a little bit, or Mr. Tusa. The idea of putting another parking lot in Inlet Beach is a bad idea for many reasons. You may have noticed I said another parking lot. There is a parking lot right now with more than 120 spaces, a block and a half away from where this one is being discussed. It's bad fiscally because that lot that you are considering, or is under consideration, sold in 2016 for $1 million. The current price on it is $4.3 million. That's absurd. There are lots right around there that are selling for roughly what that lot should be selling for. But to pay 4 times that or even think about it is just asinine. It's bad because a parking lot is not allowed in Inlet Beach according to our neighborhood plan. It's not an allowable use of property. We worked with you all, we worked with planning to come up with our neighborhood plan and also with the new amendments, and you all supported those things. This is part of what that's all about. It's a bad plan because you all are in favor of the underpass at 98 Wall Street. That underpass is going to channel additional pedestrian traffic and bicycles right down South Wall Street. This parking lot, if it goes in, is slated at 43 parking spaces and 10 for golf carts. If you do the math there, say those turn over twice a day. That's 90. That's actually over 100. You take that 100, multiply it by 30 days in a month. Take that times the 3 months that are the primary period. We're talking about increased vehicles to the tune of 9,500 plus in that length of time. You throw that in with the additional pedestrian and bicycle traffic, and you are asking for a disaster to happen somewhere right along that little street with all of that. We want the pedestrians, we want the bicycles, and now, oh, by the way, let us throw a few thousand additional cars in that mix. It is a bad idea because, as far as I know, we're not talking about any restrooms or facilities of any kind except a parking lot. Imagine what tailgating would look like. Imagine what the holidays would look like. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a bad idea because the residents and homeowners and taxpayers of Inlet Beach do not want another parking lot there. And I appreciate you asking Mr. Tusa and perhaps Mac to work with us, but I have another question for you. Since when do county employees paid for with our tax dollars not respond? I tried repeatedly to contact Mac and a number of times to contact Mr. Tusa and got no responses. Thank you.
Let's stop for the clapping, please. We got a lot to get through here. Mac, would you like to respond to any of that?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Matt Carpenter with the Planning Department. I have not talked directly to him. I attempted to meet with him on Friday, and he flatly refused.
You called the same day.
Hey, Mr. Jaffe.
Well, let's not.
I'm not going to have this, Mr. Jaffe.
I'm happy to meet with Mr. Jaffe or any members of this neighborhood at any time. We attempted to meet last week, but Mr. Jaffe was not available. I was available today. He wanted to come to the meeting first.
Okay.
But I'm available to meet at any time, and I do believe that a parking lot in that location is allowable within the Inlet Beach Neighborhood Plan and the neighborhood infill land use. In that neighborhood plan, we have added bike ped facilities all the way down to that beach access connecting to the tunnel. And part of this plan involves improving that roadway, adding bicycle and pedestrian facilities to accommodate the additional traffic. But we believe it's an important connector from that beach access all the way up to the tunnel. In addition to that, Public Works is proposing a beach access dune walkover that would connect this beach that this access connects to the east, to the original beach access and the existing public restrooms available there to address that particular problem. But I'm available to meet at any time. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Name's Danny Hornsby at 202 Pompano,
Spell your last name, please.
Hornsby.
Okay, thank you.
I don't like to jump into this fire pit we just started. I live one lot down from where the proposed parking lot's going to go. And I don't want to put out that we are against tourists or people, because I love the people that ride the bicycles, the kids on the bicycles, the people walking their dogs. There's 80, 90 folks a day coming by. I love talking to them. They'll walk down to the state park or the county park that's down there. They'll turn around and come back. They will not allow their kids to ride bicycles around that park because of what it is. This goes in, and we're going to lose this part of our little neighborhood. That it's not just us. It's tourists, Rosemary Beach, people coming in for just the day and all. It's a quaint neighborhood, and you slam a parking lot down right in the middle of it, and you lose all of that. We lose the quality of life. We lose the quality of what made Walton County so desirable, and it is very desirable. And I hate to see it get turned into Panama City Beach. Thank you.
I'm going to ask you to leave if you don't quit clapping. We've got a lot of work to do here tonight. Sir, in the back.
Hi, everybody. My name's Brian Amtoff. I also live in Inlet Beach. I'm a full-time
Please
resident.
spell your last name.
Oh, I'm sorry, sir. It's A, M like Mary, S like Sam, Hoff. So I'm also concerned as well about this going in. I brought just a little sheet here to highlight what's been going through my head. So, and mind you, this is coming from, I go down there every day ever since I moved here. So it's already kind of bustling with foot traffic, bike traffic. There's strollers, a lot of those burleys. You see the people on those. I go down with my 3 kids, and I can tell you it's a task to get them down there safely as it is. It makes me, pretty appalled to think that it could possibly get busier, much less that busier. And I just really don't want to see it go in. My wife can't be here. She told me she felt like she really wanted to stress that the safety and the vision set forth in those neighborhood plans would just kind of be forgotten. She feels like things are going in the way of the tourists and not necessarily the residents, and that the residents here actually have some needs that you guys should be watching after as well. Other than that, I was reading as well that the neighborhood, one thing I found online about that plan that I think the commissioners were involved in or were at some point, it says the neighborhood seeks to nurture the neighborhood plan seeks to nurture the unique neighborhood character already established and encourages safe pedestrian and bicycle traffic. I think if that parking lot goes in, it's going to be completely against that. I think it would just go, 100% against that. I mean, it just seems realistic to me. Anyhow, that's really about all I had so far. I mean, I got 1,000 thoughts going through in my head. right before I came here, I was kind of Googling some stuff, and I know you guys talk about price and negotiating, all that. And I was looking at that, and at 4.3 million, I was kind of looking at some of the budgets and stuff like that I found online for Walton County. I mean, even say you talk that down, 4.3 million, that would be enough, what I think would cover 7.5 years of commissioner salaries and wages. I think it's enough money to cover 5 years of the whole South Walton Mosquito Department salaries. So I just wanted to bring stuff up like that because it seems excessive and it seems unnecessary and it just seems like the writing's on the wall. And I feel passionate about it. So, and it's my first time being here. If I would have known it was a big deal, I would have gotten dressed up a little more.
You're fine.
But
Fine. Don't worry about
I
it.
hope you guys really, really, really take into your hearts and your thoughts what the residents feel and what the residents need and what they're calling you to do, because really, you guys are representing the residents. So,
And just for the people at Inlet Beach, I want you to know, we're not voting today to buy this piece of property.
right.
We're just giving the TDC, there's 5 properties here, all of them came in above appraisal. All we're giving them, there will be another chance to discuss this. Nothing is set in stone. So we're just giving permission to negotiate. Don't know if any of these can be negotiated down.
Yeah, and I wanted, the gentleman who wants to talk, I guess I'm involved in I just signed up for the homeowners association. I work from home, so wherever he went, you can meet me after this, and I'd be willing to discuss whenever as well.
Okay. All right. Anyone else? Mr. Chapman, you want?
Mr. Chairman, I want to go ahead and modify my motion. I know you said at the next board meeting, but I'm going to modify it to allow staff to do what we ask them to, but to bring it back at the next meeting at South Walton.
Will you
And I'll
modify
second
yourself?
that again.
Okay. Any more discussion?
You wouldn't entertain taking the Inlet Beach part out, period, would you?
Let's allow them to do it. Due to the spread of what he's asking, what it appraised at, I cannot see him willing to do what we think he's going to do. So let them, I'm just like they ought to finish up to what we ask them to do, and when he comes back, we'll know for sure that it's off the table.
Any more discussion?
What do you?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay.
Nay.
You make the motion, but I don't think you can now.
No.
Nay.
Okay. 2 nays, Commissioner Nipper and Commissioner Black.
But I do want to say about my vote that it was, I really want the Eastern Lake parcels if possible, and I like the Blue Mountain, but I don't like the Inlet Beach. So that vote, that nay vote was strictly on the Inlet Beach parcel.
I understand. Mr. Chairman, while we're talking about possible beach access, I have learned there's a possibility of 2 parcels in the Eastern Lake area that may be available for sale. There are 2 older established homes that are in there. It's right at the corner of Eastern Lake where it makes the 90 and our boardwalk goes off there. I would make a motion that we direct Jay to reach out and see if they are truly for sale. I heard it through the grapevine that they may be up, and it might be something that we would prefer to have there in close proximity to our beach access in lieu of some of this inlet, or not inlet, but Eastern Lake property that's way high.
Okay. So I'll second it for discussion. Would you, I think Jay's aware of another parcel in Inlet Beach that's adjacent to our existing park on the beach. Would you?
Let's don't go there, because I'm sure all these people from Inlet Beach don't want that either. So let's see let's wait till we get through these to see if that's available and at what price, because,
Well, I got it from the Inlet Beach folks.
I mean, if you want to include in your motion, that's fine.
I just think we ask if it's for sale and what the price is, if you don't mind. The Inlet Beach is adjacent to our current access.
Well, I don't mind modifying it accordingly. Do I need to put these two parcels I'm thinking about or talking about into the record or not? All right, first one,
There are addresses on there, they're highlighted, Commissioner, highlighted in yellow, bottom right.
498 Eastern Lake Road and 508 Eastern Lake Road.
And the one I'm talking about, I think you're aware of, right?
Do you know an address?
You know an address right offhand?
I don't offhand.
But it's adjacent to the
It's
present
adjacent to
park?
the regional beach access to the west.
So it's enough for a motion to move forward, right?
Yes, as long as you guys are all clear on.
Yes,
Okay.
the-
So my motion is to explore these two pieces, and you want to add an additional parcel
Adjacent to the regional beach access and then.
On the west side.
On the west side.
on the west side.
Gotcha.
Dan, did you second that motion?
Yes, I did.
Okay. All right, any discussion? Any discussion from the audience? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay.
Okay.
Just a minute, Jay.
Yes, sir.
For the people at Inlet Beach, if you wish to leave now, you can go ahead and leave. We'll wait a few minutes for y'all to get out. If you want to stay, you're welcome to stay. But we're in for a long night, so
Yeah.
I figured you might want a chance to leave. We're not going to do anything sneaky while y'all are gone.
Oh, there it is. I wonder where it got off to.
All right, Mr. Tusa.
All right. So the next item for TDC after all those appraisals is to update and request direction on the proposed Dune Allen parking lot. If I don't need to read those parcel numbers per Sydney, I won't. For TDC workshops held on April 22nd and May 15th. So this is the property that is adjacent to Stinky's Restaurant and across the street from the new regional beach access that we are building, that's under construction. So as the agenda item says, we had two workshops on this. So we've actually presented the kind of discussion we had from the first workshop, and then the board said, okay, well, let's see if we can kind of come to some consensus, and the board said, have another workshop. And that's what we did on May 15th. So in all honesty, we didn't make any headway with that second workshop. The sticking point is, and I'll just kind of tell you, and of course, I think all the homeowners are here, so they'll express their concerns directly with you, but the little bridge road that is being proposed is the sticking point in this for the folks over in Sea Highlands neighborhood, and then for the Woodward folks and the Serenity at Dune Allen folks. I will say the majority of those homeowners in there are opposed. There are some who support it, and I saw a few of those folks here this evening, so they'll probably get up and speak in favor of the project. But you know, they feel that it's a public safety issue, which is funny because that's what the owner thinks about the other proposal. So anyway, so I think I have a recommendation that I'd like to make to the board is to have maybe Chance present the different plans that he's come up with, and then maybe have a dialogue with Jim Richard. He is here this evening, the property owner, and just to see if you can ask him of any questions that you might have, and I have a dialogue with him. And then depending on where the board and Jim want to take this, then open it up to public comment. I don't know if we want to put the cart before the horse, because depending on what y'all decide, it may sway public comment one way or the other. So that might be best to leave that till last. But that's my recommendation. Certainly the board can do it any way you see fit. But
Is that fine with the board? Okay.
All right.
Bring Chance up.
All right, great.
Hello again. As Jay said, pretty much we've narrowed it down to I think, 4 options, conceptual plans that are worthy of discussion. I think, matter of fact, I'm going to pass these out.
I think we already
have
have
them.
them. I think Jay had them.
Jay, they have what I sent earlier? Okay. And I think we've got some on to put up on the PDF here. I'll just start with them and walk through them. They're labeled, and they're labeled kind of funny because we had many iterations of this, but there's A, A2, D, and E. Both A and A2 were what was presented at the first and second little public workshop meetings. They both involve the bridge road that connects Woodward over to Hilltop Drive. One of them basically has the proposed parking facility accessing off of 30A. The other one shows it accessing off of Hilltop. And really no cross-access opportunities between Stinky's Fish Camp property and the proposed parking facility. Some other thoughts were discussed and questions were asked, and that's where it came up with option D. Option D was a slight shift of Woodward to provide, to allow the opportunity to abandon a portion of the Woodward easement over the Stinky's Fish Camp property. One thing that's significantly different in these is that both D and E have a cross-access opportunity, sort of a blended, coordinated effort between this development, the proposed parking lot development, and the existing Stinky's property. I will say, though, that I don't believe Mr. Richard has been open to these two, but we still have discussed them, so I wanted to bring them up. After discussing D with, I believe it was you, Commissioner Chapman, we looked at moving Woodward even farther to the west, which you can see on option E. You can see a little shaded area there, which is the absolute must that we must keep in the Woodward easement to maintain public access. It's a very small portion of the northwest corner of the Stinky Fish Camp property. Overall circulation, my personal beliefs, I think that these provide a pretty good situation. And that's looking at all aspects of the parking, the homeowners, everything. I can't speak for any one specific, I guess, person or interest here. We've got several things that we're trying to juggle: the operations of the restaurant, the Serenity Dunes homeowners, and everybody up Hilltop Drive. If you've got any questions for me on any of these, I'd be glad to answer them or try to discuss my thoughts on how we came to this.
Mr. Chapman. You're correct. Chance and I did meet after hearing from the people in the area. Hilltop doesn't want that bridge road coming across from Woodward. They feel there's an impact there. Woodward, the people up in Serenity want to still have their access to 30A, direct access. And trying to, the one you're talking about, which is E, I believe is what you got now. It's this one that's on the screen up here, is what I had proffered to Chance earlier about just realigning Woodward with a slight jog into it, coming in almost exactly where it's intersecting now. That accommodates the majority of the folks in Serenity as far as having direct access. It also leaves the majority of the easement there for abandonment to Mr. Richard. There is an exit point, an entry point on Hilltop, but that's just mainly made there to allow egress in and out of there and make it flow coming in and out. It's instead of everything turning right back around and coming back out at one point, there is a secondary exit from there. Talked with Chance about moving the sidewalk, multi-use path, ever what you want to call it, that would be on the west side of the new alignment, which would have an entry off of Woodward, a couple actually entrance going in there, and would also provide the opportunity if Mr. Richard to come in there and attach to the new road bed. So it would give him an additional access coming into his parking area. There have been many concerns and emails and phone calls made, not only to me, but every one of them that's sitting up here today, including probably Public Works, about, well, we got to try and see what we can come up with on Woodward, on Hilltop, and all that. And the other thing I mentioned a chance too is this parking lot over here, if this goes through, is a county parking lot. And at that point in time, I would think we need to look at metering those parking spots there. So if anybody uses it, they would be charged for it. We could work out something through the computer apps and what have you. If you're a resident of this county, you wouldn't be charged that fee. But if you're a tourist visiting the area, then you would have that associated with if you use that parking lot during any time of the day or night. And that's what I'm proffering to the board. So it's out there.
I agree, Mr. Chairman.
I'm sorry. Chance, is there any way to have this dogleg road of Woodward and completely abandon all of the 33 feet?
It's going to be very difficult
Okay.
to maintain some proper access.
Okay.
And with that alignment, it would be, I think it would approach awkward to jog it that much to get it in there and stay off of that northwest corner there.
Can you give, I guess, an approximate size of that red shaded in area?
I believe it's about, and this is the absolute minimum that would be needed for the travel lane. I mean, it would be nice to have a little bit more just in case, but I think it's about 7 feet east and west and maybe about 20 feet south, that little triangle wedge that's there.
Well, Sid, when I was talking with Chance and looking at the road alignment, of moving it and try to come in there at that northeast corner of these parcels to try and put it in there, and now that I've seen he's drawn it into scale to accommodate the bike path, pedestrian, whatever, he had to plug that in there, and that sort of shifted it back to the east some, which made it impact that easement 7 foot by 20.
You want to go on a limb and give us your professional opinion about which one of these is the safest?
Safety for who?
I would say me, but
Which one's the safest for the whole area?
Yeah.
In your opinion, as the traffic engineer, which would you think's the safest? I'm assuming that's
Answering
what
this
you
may
want.
not be safe for me. Answering it may not be safe for me. Let's see, I believe they're all safe.
We didn't ask you that question. We asked you which one you think's the safest.
Well, and to be clear, whatever is designed will meet all
That's right.
requirements and regulations and will be as safe as possible, right, Chance?
That's correct. Thank you.
well, you tell me, let's do it this way then. You tell me if I'm wrong. This bridge road, when you go out there and walk it, that's a real short distance to 38. And you're stacking a lot of traffic from two neighborhoods on a short distance. So I'm not a big fan. Yes, go ahead.
If Hilltop was a higher speed facility and, or had a larger volume of traffic on it than just the residential neighborhood, I could agree with that, but I don't know that necessarily it would pose a huge problem from safety from that connection from the Bridge Road to 30A. You know, I came up with all these, the bridge road was even my idea, I believe, in the beginning. If everybody don't start throwing sticks at me from the back right now. But that was my idea, and that idea was based on conversations that Commissioner Anderson and I had with some homeowners on Woodward 2 or 3 years ago, I believe it was.
I gotta admit, I'm from God's country, and it takes us a quarter of a mile to turn around. So these distances sometimes are a little short.
Understand?
But I do, of the two that, I think the E is better. I absolutely do not want to add more cuts to 30A. I do think that's a bad idea. But there's some pedestrian opportunities from Serenity, correct?
There are, and now it is a very tight opportunity there with the way the road shifts through there to stay off of that lot just north of the 2 lots that the county's interested in. We could look at that in more detail as design comes. That we might need to put the pedestrian facility on the east side of Woodward, north of this project, and then cross them over with a crosswalk there or something at Woodward to get over onto the other side of the road.
One question is where the walkover from the north side to the beach access on the south side, where are you planning on putting it?
It would, it's going to be a mid-block type crossing. It'll be pretty much immediately west of the proposed crossing on E.
So west of the new Woodward?
Yes, sir.
And you'll have one pedestrian crossing?
That's correct.
That's good.
The parking lot proposed on the south side of the road is a one-way loop type situation, and the pedestrian access is right in the middle of those 2 driveway connections.
Any more questions? Mr. Richard?
Yes, sir.
Do you want to speak?
Jim Richard, R-I-C-H-A-R-D. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, thank you for your time today, and I appreciate the position you're in and trying to make all of these people happy in this community. We have a great community, and we're really lucky to be here. The reason all this came about, I've been on that corner for 17 years now, I'm blessed. The reason this came about was because neighbors to the north of us for the past 5 years have had countless complaints to code enforcement and to the commissioner's office, I'm sure. I know I've seen the pictures. I've been taking my time. My customers have been approached, staff, etc., because of the clash between the commercial and the residential aspect of this neighborhood. We are getting the beach access. Thank you very much. It's just about completed, and it's going to be great. It's inherent that we are going to get a tremendous amount of more traffic in this neighborhood. You can look at any of the other beach accesses and see exactly what's going to happen there. Chance did come up with this first proposal, which I wish I had come up with it, because I truly believe it is brilliant, because it effectively separates the commercial and the residential and the public, the new county use, in a safe manner. We already have had incidences of people, that's where our traffic exits the restaurant. Again, I'm blessed. They have 100+ cars a day coming out of that exit. Homeowners coming up, there's a clash there. Once you add pedestrian traffic from the north and the increased beach traffic, and hopefully my business will stay healthy, it's a recipe for disaster. We will have an accident there. This project, this plan, separates them effectively. It lets them live in harmony. It's a great project for the county. It's the vision of the TDC. It serves the Tourist Development Council and its mission to provide these beach accesses in the wake of House Bill 631. I wrote this great speech, and I'm going to leave it alone and answer your questions. This is to me, it's much like House Bill 631, when you have a minority of people, a vocal minority of activists who come out and speak their mind, and God bless them, but when it comes down to it, you have to do what's right for this community and for the safety of this community. And so you have a minority of people who are standing up and vocal and are changing the way that we live because of a few powerful people in the community.
Let's keep it quiet. If you want to speak, you'll have an opportunity.
And I think this was Chance's first blush at this thing, and a lot of times that's because that gives you the best results. And it does, again, it separates and allows us to coexist. And that can, this area from Fort Panic to this beach access, we should take this opportunity and put a 20-year plan together and take a look at this and let this be the vision for what South Walton County is going to look like in the future. Because this is what you directed the TDC to do, and they're doing a great job doing it. Thank you very much for your time. Do you have any questions?
I do.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Richard, you've seen the last one that Chance and I worked on. Have you seen that layout?
I got a copy of it today, sir.
Okay. Any grief with it?
I'm a very reasonable person, and you know what? I want this. I sat on the TDC board for 2 terms. I want this vision for Walton County. I think this is the best case scenario. There are not any others that we've been able to actually put into action. My only problem with it is that it takes increased tourist traffic, healthy commercial traffic, the public traffic, and now more pedestrian traffic, and it slams them all into one area. Whereas the first plan separates them and protects the public and the pedestrians from the commercial traffic while all coexisting and hopefully living in harmony. And hopefully these complaints that come to code enforcement and to the commission office will all go away because of this separation. And you won't see, you're not going to get a call from a tourist or a local that has had an accident or hit a pedestrian on South Woodward Road if you make this choice and vote to enact this first plan.
Any other questions?
But you're not putting any I mean, if we proceed with this sale, you're the seller, we're the buyer, you're not putting any you're not putting any set in stone conditions on what we can do with that property once we buy it. Is that a fair statement? I read the contract, I didn't see anything.
I don't believe that I put anything in there. As long as it's going to become parking to support the beach access, that is the best case scenario for this. And, you know, we can go back a little further. I originally bought this property to be a parking facility, was told that I could, then I was told that I couldn't. I've been waiting patiently for years for something great to happen with it. And this is great. This is what the county needs. The county apparently has found a way to make this work as a parking facility, so that's my understanding of the use.
But as far as the road goes, you don't.
I do, again,
Time out.
Just a second. Sorry to jump in. So if we do end up going with option E, Mr. Richards, the contract that we have on the next agenda item, item number 36, it does require that we abandon the entirety of Woodward Drive that's located on Mr. Richard's property. So that would have to be amended if we go with option E, because there is that small portion.
I did stipulate that in the contract because of my experience here and what is very foreseeable for me to see the conflict that is going to be created with the public, private, pedestrian, all those being slammed onto one road right there. It's not a good plan.
Well, let me ask this, Mr. Chairman. You know, we can sit here and go backwards and forth all night. I just want to shoot straight from the hip, get a direct response from you. If we are all in favor, I'm talking about the board, in favor of option E, and that little sliver right there to ask you to give it up. If you're not willing to do that, then this thing is dead. It ain't going any further,
Okay?
as far as I'm concerned. I don't know about the rest of the board, but, you know, I think it's a good compromise. You're not going to lose that much if we stay with option E. And if you don't want to do that, just tell us.
And again, I'm a reasonable person. I want this project for the county. I think there's probably some legal descriptions that have to be changed. So if you're going to vote no against what is proposed, then certainly we can look at it again.
So that's a yes.
That's a-
You'll negotiate.
That is a yes, I'll certainly negotiate, but I would hope that you would accept this today and accept this project, because I know that you've had a lot of outcry, but this is the right thing to do for public safety and for the beach access.
For us to accept the bridge road.
The bridge road and as the contract is presented, yes, sir. And I am passionate about this. I've lived here, I've worked here, I've seen it, I've heard it. When you put all of those entities onto one road, you're asking for trouble.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask Matt Carpenter to come up and talk about option E that we've discussed? Is that?
Thank you very much for your time.
We stay handy.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman.
I'm not going anywhere.
Matt, can you please discuss the benefits of option E?
Option E, as Chance from Public Works has described it, essentially keeps Woodward with a direct connection to 30A, which I think speaks to the folks at the north end of Woodward. It doesn't interrupt their access to 30A and create the two 90-degree turns. This also provides the opportunity for cross-access connection for the Stinky's restaurant site to allow their delivery trucks to deliver in the parking lot and not on the side of County Road 30A. It addresses parking along the roadway, both on 30A and around on the hilltop side, which has been somewhat unmanaged over the years, creating a safety problem. This does relocate the pedestrian access from Woodward Drive through the parking lot to 30A and to a crosswalk to the south side of 30A and the new regional beach access. We're proposing to dynamically meter this particular parking lot. And what that means is we would have parking meters that would be accessed by a smartphone app technology for paying for the parking. That pricing could be changed depending on the season, the time of day, or the day of week to manage the demand there. And we believe this parking would be available to restaurant patrons, either directly parking there and walking over to Stinky's, or if Mr. Richard chooses to employ valet parking, he could certainly pay the dynamic rate and use that parking lot for valet parking for the convenience of his customers. I think it's a win-win for both the neighborhood on the Hilltop side. It limits the amount of traffic flowing into Hilltop. It keeps the Woodward Avenue traffic heading straight south, and it provides additional parking for the regional beach access, which we sorely need, and it provides some additional utility parking for the restaurant, which I believe that he needs also.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do we have a motion? You want to?
You guys could choose to take public comment before you have a motion, or we could have a motion in a second. Okay, sorry. Do you want to take public comment before you have a motion, or that's up to the board? It's a decision you guys can make.
Mr. Chairman, Sidney, may I ask, can we stipulate which option to use, or the fact that we have the authority before we even consider the purchase?
Okay. Well, I think we're still on agenda item number 25, which is the update.
Right.
And so 36 is the consideration of the contracts. So I'm sorry, what was the question? Would you like to stipulate a plan as part of
the purchase?
The purchase? You could choose to do that if you'd like. But I would state that if you go with options E or D, that would require an amendment to the contract as it's currently drafted. Because the current draft of the contract requires that the entirety of Woodward Road on Mr. Richard's property be abandoned.
Two things that just might help is, Commissioner, to your question, and I think Sydney answered appropriately, that it would be appropriate for a motion to consider one.
Okay.
If that were option E, then that would be the only option being considered and through the public discussion, through the public comments. But to Commissioner Chapman's point, I think you may want some clarity from Mr. Richard that if the board takes that action, is he willing to move forward with a sale if that be the contingencies that would be required to enact that particular option?
That says, I want to be that transparent, yes,
Yeah.
I agree.
So
I agree, we need to know those things.
If that helps with clarity, and that will certainly help the public in their comments as well. If you narrow it down to an option, and we know for a fact that the land is, probably will be available under the terms and conditions of that option, which I think was the question you were trying to get to, Mr. Chapman.
So do you want to take public comment before we do this?
I want to take a break and then take public comment.
You want to take a break and then take public comment? Okay, we're going to take about a 10, 15-minute break.
I need a drink.
Here he comes.
Okay, bring it back to order. We left this with deciding on which one we were going to do, if we were going to do any.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion that we narrow our scope to option E, which is the last one on the page, that we approve option E as our designation, that we direct our county attorney to meet with Mr. Richard and his attorneys to renegotiate or redo the contract, and that we further direct staff to begin the abandonment process on the easement on Woodyard.
Woodward.
Or Woodward, I'm sorry, not Woodyard, that'd be bad. Woodward.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I'm sure we have discussion.
Any discussion from the audience? Just on, wait just a minute. Just on E. We're not talking about any other one but E. Just a second. And we're going to stay civil. I don't want to hear any comments, any clapping, anything like that. We're going, you have 3 minutes, and I think somebody in the back was first. Okay, raise your hand. Celeste?
Celeste Covina, C-O-B-E-N-A, and I'm at 412 Hilltop Drive. And I had some other things I wanted to discuss, but I'm going to change what I talk about. I think E is the most palatable option, with the exception of the exit onto Hilltop. I think that is something that should be eliminated because, you know, Hilltop is a quiet neighborhood, quiet street. Beach Highlands is a quiet neighborhood, a quiet street. I've already heard that a lot of the vendor trucks, the beer trucks, are going to be turning and going down Baird Street to exit the neighborhood. And that's just not acceptable. We're turning our neighborhood into a commercial avenue. And I just don't think that is something that we should have. And honestly, I'm going to say, I think this is not a good deal for either of the neighborhoods or the community. I think the better option would be to look at the lots across the street that are beachfront lots for sale for a similar price. And I think that's, more bang for your buck. Right now, if you go down there, the beaches are packed. We've got 3 umbrellas deep. You need more beachfront. You don't need more restaurant parking provided by the county. I think the restaurants need to provide their own parking. So that's where I think you need to go with this. If you're going to, I personally think you need to just abandon this whole idea and move forward. And I've brought with you some of my suggestions. And I did email this to Jay Tusa about 2 weeks ago. I think there are, and it's for sale on Scenic Southerly, lots 113 Fort Panic for $2.9 million, and it's a half acre with 131 feet of beachfront. You've got 103 Fort Panic, which is right next to it. It's $2.3 million, and it's 0.259 of an acre with 75 feet of beachfront. That's what you need to do for the community, not provide restaurant parking. And I don't see how you're going to have this metered and not everything else parking metered. That's just not equitable. And the last thing I want to mention is that I just think it's unbelievable that the county is going to just change the land designation to right-of-way and then allow this 80% coastal dune lake protection zone to be developed. The county ought to be setting the example of how to do things right, not how to get around doing things that are set forth in the Comprehensive Plan and Land Development Code. So that's what I have to say. Will we have the opportunity to speak on the contract also?
So Celeste, the motion on the floor is that staff renegotiate the contract and bring it back to the board at a later date. So right now, the motion is not for the board to vote on the contract tonight. It'll have to be redrafted and brought back.
Okay, I just wanted clarification because that got kind of a little confusing. And I want to turn,
Celeste, your time's up.
I'm turning these papers in, okay, so you can see where you can get a little bit better value for your money.
Lady on the left. My left. Please state your name and spell your last name.
Sure. My name is Jacqueline Fudge, F-U-D-G-E, like the candy, 89 Baird Road, Santa Rosa Beach. I'm a full-time resident of Beach Highlands, Addition 1, and I do have very serious concerns about this project. First thing I'd like to say is, unfortunately, those of us in the neighborhood, when I attended both workshops, did not have access to the drawings that were presented this evening. The most recent ones would have been very helpful to us and would have been helpful to my comments. But there are some basic things that need to be said tonight. There's a dangerous blind curve on 30A to the west of the streets, Hilltop, Woodward, and 30A. Love Stinkies, and it's really congested because of Stinkies' popularity. Living there, I can walk down, it's great, love it. But there are also a lot of other people in some of these mega rentals. I have in the details that you have there. There are over 500 people potentially currently in Serenity at Duneallen and the mega beach rentals that are there that face Woodward. Okay? So in an emergency situation, all these people would have to leave and probably go through Beach Highlands. Okay, let's talk about Beach Highlands. Neighborhood was established and developed in 1960s. That's been quite a while. It's full of hills and narrow roads. There are no sidewalks. Children play in the streets, especially rental children. Speaking of children, Hilltop and Woodward currently serve as school bus stops. Is this addressed in this plan? I've asked about it at both workshops, and there was some discussion, but I don't see any way that's been addressed in this. I don't want to see innocent children hurt, and I assume you do not as well. Baird Road is the first street a driver exiting through Beach Highlands would see. So if you look on page 1 of your handout, you'll see you come out of this new proposed parking area, you go right, and the first left is Baird. And there are 2 blind hills on that street. They're marked on page 2 with a pink X. I live at the top of one of those blind hills, and I can tell you firsthand, it's dangerous. At various times, there have been as many as a dozen beach overflow parking cars there and on the shoulder and in the street. I've got pictures. I sent you all videos. Hopefully you took a look at that. Makes it very difficult from a safety perspective. Adding this additional traffic, you can count on various tragic situations potentially. No one wants that. Lastly, at the last workshop, I asked, how much is this all going to cost? $2.6 million was the total I was given between construction and et cetera. So why not spend less than 1% to do a real traffic study at this particular point and figure out what's best for the public? Thank you.
Good job, right at 3 minutes.
Thank you.
Let him go, then you can go.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Duncan Morrison, Morrison. I've been a longtime resident of 106 Woodward Drive, and I'll tell you in no uncertain terms, it's a clear and present danger every day I get into that road. I have taken hundreds of snapshots of near collisions. Kids walk down the middle of the road from the school bus. Been almost hit numerous times. It's a one-lane road. When I look at this rendering E, I've looked at all the renderings, I'm mystified that we could consider this. This seems to be overly complex, and what's that rule? Occam's razor, a simple solution, right? The one that we're exiting onto 30A, a bridge road, that's the simple solution. We've lost the community to the old do now, and the old, the investors have come in. So also the beach access problem. So you need parking, and the simpler the better. This isn't simple, and I think you inject as much, if not more, danger into the pedestrians and the people traveling down Woodward Drive. So I would give you my full lack of support for version E. And I live there, and it's a clear and present danger every single day.
Mr. Morrison, I got a question.
Sorry, Commissioner? Yes, Commissioner Chap.
You and Ms. Fudge talked about the kids playing in the street north of where we're talking about. And I assume you're aware there's an HOA in there that's responsible for what goes on in there dealing with the roads.
I can talk to you briefly about that.
And because we've already had that conversation with some that, Ms. Fudge, you've had your time, thank you. So is that not a fair statement? The HOA is responsible for what goes on up on that road as far as drainage and road or safety?
16 feet from the center line on both sides, the HOA is responsible on Woodward, and
right.
It's a failed HOA. So what I would say is it's non-functional. I mow the lawn on the right-of-way that the HOA is supposed to take care of. If you look at the HOA, it's just non-existent. From my perspective, the developer doesn't have a functional HOA back in Serenity who is supposed to take care of the Woodward right-of-way. And so therefore, it doesn't exist. And it hasn't existed, and that's just what's there.
Is Woodward not a private road north of there?
I believe it to be a private road with public access.
Right.
I believe that the kids play on the street on Woodward as much as they do on Hilltop. I believe a lot of the investors have come in. All of that discussion about investors, that really is, to me, that's the community we live in now. The issue is how do we deal with the parking situation that's existing as well? We can't get the investors to go away. So the fact that there's 16 people in this house or 25 cars there or there, it's all sort of clouding the issue, is that there's a clear and present danger to the traveling public on Woodward. And the simple solution that you presented in one of your earlier sketches, not this one is, Occam's razor, the simple solution is the one that works. This complex one that I see here only introduces more risk and more liability into the, more risk, more liability.
Ms. Morrison, so as far as you're concerned, the bridge road is what you're...
I think the exit onto 30A from the parking lot and a bridge road will be the best solution, the simplest solution. And I don't believe that the people in Serenity or the 4 people that live on Woodward are going to spend their time going back up into Dune Allen. I just think that people are just going to exit and go down 100 feet down to 30A and turn left or right. It's sort of, I don't think the infiltration is going to occur that's been stipulated. That's my perspective.
I have to disagree. I think there's going to be growth in that area.
I'm sorry?
I disagree. I think there's going to be growth. There are a lot of lots back there.
Okay. Thank you.
Sam Dansky, I live at 138 Crescent Road.
Spell your last name.
D-A-N-S-K-Y. Live at the corner of Hilltop and Crescent Road. Well, being a Louisianan, I love Jim Richard's restaurant, but if the gumbo ever goes stale, you could sell beachfront property in Iowa. After that speech you gave earlier, did you guys watch the workshop? Both of them? Any of them? There was a single lady that was in favor of the bridge road. No one except her, and she said she might have some friends that live in the neighborhood that were in favor of it.
Sir, we're just talking about...
Well, I'm talking about the bridge road right now.
No, we're talking about E, which is not Bridge Road. We're not talking about Bridge Road, okay?
I thought we were talking... Well,
No, we're just
can you
talking
stop the
about...
timer? My timer's running out.
You'll have a little extra time.
All right. And the number one reason I believe he would want to sell the property would be a little over 2 million reasons. That was never mentioned. So it's all about parking, right? We all agree we need more parking in Walton County, up and down 30A. It's pretty obvious. We see it every day we're driving. But why would we even consider the bridge road? Well, are the monitors still there? If you look at it, if you remove the bridge road, and Chance even admitted so much at the last meeting, the last workshop, you could add 10-plus parking spaces if you get rid of the bridge road. Why would we even have a bridge road there? It makes absolutely no sense whatsoever.
Again, sir, we're not talking about Bridge Road.
This is the E.
That's off the
Okay,
table,
all right.
okay? We're talking about E, which is a road.
Well, you asked for comments, that's my comments. But okay.
And I also said that we're not talking about anything but Proposition E.
Celeste already brought it up. What about the coastal lake protection zone here? Why should we strip it away and build a parking lot? I just don't think that's a very good idea. And then finally, has anybody talked to the co-owner of these 2 lots, William Davis? I don't know. I think that's a good question. I'll just leave it at that. I don't want to, I know I've already been a little too negative, but if there's a lot of questions, I could ask more. I think we just need to do a little more due diligence on this whole thing. Thank you.
Sir, in the red, you had your hand up a while ago.
My name's Kenneth Blackburn.
Could you step a little closer or pull?
Kenneth Blackburn.
Okay.
Blackburn. I've lived on Hilltop a little over 20 years. Today, when I come in from work, when I turned, there was 11 people standing in the middle of the road walking from the beach, right approximately where that dumps out of the parking lot on the Hilltop. There's no sidewalks for people to walk. They built three-story summer rentals right there. On the weekends, there's anywhere from 10 to 30 families are walking to that beach down Hilltop. They don't need anything coming out of that parking lot on the Hilltop. They're just going to get people run over. We've got golf carts running around, 7 or 8 kids hanging on it. We've got other ones running around with drunk grown-ups in it. They got everything, they bring everything. They bring their bicycles, they bring their boogie boards, they leave their common sense and their good manners at home. That's all I got to say.
Thank you. Ma'am, Fred, you'll be next.
Yes, I'm Bridget Morrison, Morrison, alias the little lady with her friends, who was alone at the meeting the last time. I live at 108 Woodward Drive and have been there since 2004. The proposal E is a compromise, and I think we came out of the workshop saying everyone was so against the Bridge Road, which I initially am and still am in favor of. But because you've decided that E is the only possibility, it is a fairly good compromise. I think the idea of trucks coming in and out of a parking lot doesn't make sense to me. They will come out of Stinky's parking lot, so I think that's a moot point. I do think that Hilltop perhaps has their concern about the parking lot emptying out on Hilltop, then the people would go left. However, they didn't like the other proposal, and this, for me, is probably a fairly good compromise, although you will have people coming out onto, 30A. Why would they go into Hilltop and Baird when they can just go left and leave? As far as metering, I think that's also a very good idea. It might be difficult. I am concerned about the traffic on Woodward. It's going to increase, and I don't think we've necessarily solved the problem of that road being either wide enough or safe enough for families and kids, because I see the golf cart community of Serenity, they want to be a golf cart community, they have issues. The trucks come barreling up and down, practically running them over. And I've spoken to Serenity people, they don't want that either. We have a problem with turnaround, and they have that issue as well. So, as communities, we do have to work together to solve these situations, and that would be the only reason I would agree to this. Otherwise, I was for the other solution. And lastly, I would say at some point you're going to have to decide what you're going to do with Woodward Drive. Either put in speed bumps or sidewalks or something, because it is, it's well-traveled and it's getting very, very dangerous. There's nowhere to walk. Thank you.
Thank you. You'll be next, sir.
Fred Tricker, Tricker, representing SWCC.
Fred, could you speak just a little louder?
Yes, sorry. Yeah, I guess I wanted to follow up on a couple other people have suggested that maybe we don't need the access onto Hilltop, and I'm not sure why it's there. I mean, is it really necessary to have that additional outlet there? I mean, I don't see why it wouldn't work with just the one access on the 38.
If you don't have the Hilltop relief access, then you're going to have all that traffic dumped onto Woodward, which, the last lady said is dangerous too. So either you're going to have all the traffic on Woodward, or you're going to have some sort of outlet on the Hilltop. So
we'll let Chance Powell answer that question.
Yeah, that's way more than I am.
Hey, Jason, stop.
I think the question was, what's the purpose of the parking lot access off of Hilltop Road.
Right.
Anytime we have an opportunity to provide some cross-access opportunities, it's a benefit to the overall transportation network. For instance, if there was anybody on Hilltop north of the parking facility that wanted to drive their car or their golf cart or anything down to the beach, they could enter the parking lot without getting on 30A. And then they could also return home without getting on 30A. That's one big reason, but anytime we have cross-access opportunities, it's a benefit.
Yeah, that's all. I guess I don't live in the neighborhood, but I would guess that it'd be a lot more acceptable to the neighborhood if that access to Hilltop was not there. Okay, Commissioner, I wanted to thank Commissioner Chapman for making it very clear to the seller that anything other than the option that the county feels is the safest and the best is going to be no deal. And I think that was really helpful to the discussion to do that. I did want to just say something in general about parking. I'm very sympathetic to the parking issues that we're having, and I don't know this for a fact, but I believe they're going to be a lot worse this year simply because we got a lot less public beach available. So people that normally would ride their bikes or walk to the beach are going to have to get in their car. They're going to have somewhere to park. But I guess in terms of perspective, if the problems are a lot worse this year, like I suspect they may be, then buying millions and millions of dollars worth of empty lots, convert them into parking lots, may not help that much. I think you do have to look at other solutions. I like the idea of the metered parking, and I don't know why we wouldn't do that right now at all county-owned parking spaces on the beach. And I think that might help reduce the demand for parking. If people have to pay for it, they might think twice about hopping in the car and taking up one of those choice parking spaces.
I'm going to give you a few, a little bit longer because we didn't stop the clock when we were asking your question.
Yeah, also I'm representing SWCC, so I think I get a little extra time, right? It was 10 minutes last time.
So there's no other members that are
No, correct. Okay, I just had one idea that Celeste mentioned the beachfront properties that are available in that same area, 113, 103 Fort Panic, that in terms of public benefit, I feel like those might be more beneficial to the public than the parking lot that you're looking at. And I would add, the handout I gave you there is the condo that's right next to 113 Fort Panic has a public access available, not a public access. It's got an easement that's available, a 33-foot easement for roadway and utilities. So to me, in terms of where you're going to spend that money, I would think that it would be better to look at beachfront property. And I know a lot of you are very much in favor of acquiring beachfront property, and really, I think that's where the focus should be. I was happy to hear that you got additional properties you want to look at. There's just one other thing I wanted to mention, sorry, and that is that Mr. Richard said that he was not allowed to put a parking lot on that property. Matt Carpenter stated at one of the workshops, I believe, that he was never denied the right to put parking on those lots. So I'd like to get that clarified, because I mean, if that's something that Mr. Richard wanted to do on his own, he could certainly put parking there. I don't know why the county could put parking in there and he can't. So that's an option. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You'll be next, ma'am.
Good evening, council. My name is Mark Leland, Leland, and I live at 196 Hilltop Drive. I'm against all this parking again. If you do put it in, we should change the name to Scenic 30A Parking Lots. Let's just look at the common sense here, okay? You're putting in a beach access, which is right across from Stinky's, which has a ton of parking. Don't most people leave the beach at 5 o'clock, okay? So he's already got a parking space. He's got, also in the morning, in the wintertime, when nobody's at the beach, his staff can park at the beach access. So why are we building him another parking lot, okay? So, again, you're building a parking lot, a beach access parking lot. You're paying him $2.2 million for his current property, and you're building him another parking lot. Now, I'm not a heavy hitter, but this is something that I think Florida State University's School of Public Policy would be very interested in, like this miscarriage of justice to the local citizens. We don't want a parking lot. You keep talking like there's a plan to do a parking lot, but we don't even want one. That's where I think we're all kind of dumbfounded here. We came here to discuss the issue. You know what we want? We want a coffee shop. You can put in parking there. He can charge his $10.95 for his French toast and coffee at the coffee shop. Everybody's happy. Also, the local residents pay a lot more property taxes than he does in sales taxes. And I see everybody chumming up to the owner of Stinky's, and I don't see anybody chumming up to the property taxpayers here who put the basics of this bill. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. My name is Karen Boyce. I live at 75 North Bishop Road.
Please spell your last name.
Boyce.
Thank you.
And I live in Beach Highlands Addition 1, which does not have an HOA. Beach Highlands, which is on the north side of 30A, does have one. I think that's where the confusion is, because I've lived there since 2000, and I know nothing about one. Thank you. I agree with everything everybody said about not putting it there. Good evening.
Sir, you want to talk? Yeah.
My name is Mike Schenkman, Schenkman. I reside at 29 Dune Drive. Like the lady before me said, a lot of the issues and concerns have been spelled out very well. I think Mr. Richard probably did a better job than anyone as far as explaining the amount of congestion that was at that location just with his commercial business. The beach access isn't even there yet. And that Mr. Richard was extremely concerned about the option E that you guys are considering as the only option that's still on the table, as concentrating everything without the separation that he perceived would create the buffer that would allow both to coexist in harmony. There's a very real problem down there about Stinky's not having sufficient parking. There's a very real problem with people wanting public beach access, and I understand and see both of those, but this one parking lot is not going to resolve the issues. Concentrating beach access along with the restaurant parking at that location, there is no good solution there. You've already achieved probably eliminating the need for hundreds of people to go to other public beach accesses just by putting that beach access there. So in essence, all the parking up in Woodward and Hilltop where people live and can now get to the beach is cars that aren't going to other beach accesses. So you've gotten a net gain just by putting your beach access there. The fellow that pointed out earlier that Mr. Richard did have the opportunity, according to Matt Carpenter, to build his own parking lot. He was not denied that opportunity. It's just that because that area is in the Coastal Dune Lake Preservation Area, he might have been somewhat more restricted in what he could put there than what the county could put there as a public use. But the person that spoke before me that said the county should be the lead in being an example on land use code, planning, and process to protect the coastal dune lakes rather than looking for an exception in the loophole was spot on. So I hope you just understand that there is no good solution that you've seen yet, and that you don't get sold a bill of goods and go with something that's not well thought out and will work. Don't want to see anybody get hurt down there. And I think that's what most people here are concerned about.
Mark, you're next. No, Mark, you're next.
Good evening, Mark Davis, DAVIS, I represent Serenity Homeowners Association and the developer at Serenity. Let me say, we do have a functioning homeowners association. We are working pretty hard within that homeowners association. And I know you guys are trying to get on the road, and I know you've got a long agenda ahead of you. We support Plan E. Let's just be that plain. We think it doesn't solve every problem. No design's going to solve every problem, but it's the best solution. As Chance has said, it's as safe as the other solutions. And so we would urge you to adopt the motion and move forward and allow Sid to try to renegotiate the contract. Let me also say just briefly, kudos to your staff. The Public Works folks, Chance and Charlie were very responsive to our concerns. I think they were responsive to the concerns of the neighborhood. Sid's office was always responsive, and it's nice to know that these people are working this hard to try to solve problems. This is just a quick spreadsheet of all the ownership in Serenity, and our survey of all of them. They support this particular plan as well as it's been presented tonight. John.
Yeah. My name is John Roberts, Roberts, and I'm here representing several of the homeowners that are affected as well. I'd echo Mark's comments. I think my homeowners are not particularly thrilled one way or the other about the idea that any plan would go through, but I think E is the best of a bad situation that could possibly be put forward in this position. The document that's been handed to you lists out all the different lot owners, and I think what Mark is telling you is that the majority of the folks, or at least the ones that have been spoken to at this point, would support and adopt Plan E. I think my homeowners would concur in that. That's the least intrusive version that could possibly be put before this board tonight. I also would echo the comments, and I think Chance and Charlie would both tell you that I would miss no opportunity to gig them just a little bit on their performance or service, but I think in this case they did the best job they could possibly do. Thank you.
Mr. Badger.
Jim Bagby, BAGBY. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, this is really a travesty that we're here, and I want to commend you for trying to think outside the box and find a solution. This is not Jim Richard's fault. He tried to do the right thing. He ran a successful restaurant. He bought lots adjacent to it thinking he could put in parking so that he could get all his customers and all his staff off the right-of-way on 30A and up and down Woodward and Hilltop and every place else that they were parking. The problem is maybe there's a solution F, because I agree with everything Celeste said. She's absolutely spot on. And one of the things is the county ought to be setting the example. You ought not to buy something so you can get around the rules that you put in place for the development of areas in this county. Metering is not going to work. It doesn't work in Destin. You can go over and talk to them about the metering. It does work some places where you have enforcement and you have somebody sitting there dedicated to making sure that somebody does the app, puts the little piece of paper, or puts the license plate number in, but we don't have those resources. We have trouble, enforcing the codes that we have already. And now you're going to put another responsibility on them to enforce the metering thing. So I would say that while it's a great idea and it can work in a big city or where you have an enforcement mechanism, that's good. Here's an idea. In the area that you can put a parking lot, put in a parking lot outside the coastal protection zone, Put in a parking lot for bicycles and golf carts only. That way, you want to go to the beach, you can ride your bicycle down there, you can ride your golf cart down there, you can go to the beach, you can use that as a beach access. Any cars park in there, whether they're people going to the beach, that beach access, whether they're people going to eat at Stinky's, or whether they're going to visit somebody that lives on Woodward or Hilltop, tow them. That's easy to enforce. I would just ask you to set the example and do the right thing for everybody in this county. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, call the question.
All right, call the question. Motion has been made and seconded, it's been discussed. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Motion passed. Sid, you want to go ahead and then finish this, and we'll go through this, and then we'll go take a break before planning. Everybody good with that?
So,
Hang on a second. Everyone that needs to leave, go ahead and leave if you wish to. If you wish to stay for the rest of the meeting, you're more than welcome. I made you. Sure, we never.
Mr. Chairman, I've got to get up early in the morning and head to Orlando.
Mary's leaving tonight.
I'm riding.
You got a zombie on the highway.
I'm riding with him.
We got a bunch of land use stuff, don't we?
Well, 3 or 4 shouldn't go home.
Let's get everybody out and we'll take a break. Get back. We should be out of here by 7.
Can we handle my stuff before we take a break?
Yes.
Okay. I know.
Please hurry.
I was just asking, Mr. Tusa, and Danny, you had mentioned this, that when this comes back with the contract, that will be in South Walton, correct?
Yes. Yes.
Well, I will, does it need to be? Because we've got a
Yes, it
time.
needs to be.
Yeah, you know, look,
Yeah, it's going to be in South Walton. We already said that went on the motion with Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Is that what your understanding was?
When's the South Walton meeting?
July the 10th?
So I've got to have a TRC meeting.
Okay, Sydney?
Okay, whatever.
Public hearing.
So that resolved items number 35 and 36. The next item is item number 37. This is a request to cancel the ordinance, of the hearing on the ordinance imposing the 5th cent tourist development tax. There's been some delays in the ordinance, so what I'm going to recommend is we cancel the hearing, and once we have word from DOR that they've completed their review, I will bring it back to you to reschedule the public hearing.
Okay. We need a motion for that?
Yes.
I've got a comment.
Okay.
Let's make the motion.
A motion, go ahead and cancel the hearing on it.
Second.
But discussion. This is not something that just come up. This is something that's been discussed for months. And I don't know, I have an idea where the ball was dropped, but it's got to stop. It's got to stop. So whomever you got to talk to, Jay or Sid, primarily you, they got to get this thing and quit dragging their feet, get it in a timely manner, so this thing just doesn't get kicked down the road as it has in the past.
I would like to echo that, and I'll say one other thing. I want that, the North TDC referendum, I want that done, and I don't want any foot dragging about it either, and it's probably the same people responsible for both, and I want that done. And I would expect you to tell them that.
And for a future discussion, like we had earlier, and I had with Jay, as a possible change to make this thing more fluid. And we can discuss that at a later date. But it's unacceptable what has happened concerning this, and it shouldn't have happened in the first place.
And that applies to both of those issues, because the way the legislatures went now, if we don't do the North Walton TDC referendum in 2020, we'll have to wait to 2022. So there is no room for dropping the ball and no room for dragging your feet. And this fifth sense, we're leaving money on the table, potentially. There's no reason for it. And
Any more discussion? I guess you got your marching orders, Jay? Okay. Any discussion from the audience? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no.
Okay, Commissioners, item number 38 is a request to approve and authorize the chair to sign the settlement agreement in DeFrancesch versus Walton County, case number 2018 CA-17, and DeFrancesch versus Bradley et al., case number 2016 CA-251. And my office is recommending approval of this settlement agreement.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second, any discussion? Any discussion from the audience? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay.
Okay, and that's all I have, Commissioners. Thank you.
Mr. Chapman, do you have
Negative.
anything?
Nothing.
Yeah, we're gonna do that after this. Pay attention. Commissioner Gladden.
no, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Nipper.
No, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Nick.
No, sir, Mr. Chairman.
And I don't have any either. Now we'll do citizens request. Kevin Boyle, could you please come forward?
Hi, my name is Kevin Boyle, B-O-Y-L-E. I'm the events director for the town of Seaside. And as we normally do every year, we get behind a controversial issue on this agenda. No, we are here to request the closure of Scenic 38 from Campbell Street to Quincy Circle from 8 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. on Thursday, July 4th.
And I assume you've met all the requirements and the sheriff's office, fire department, et cetera.
Yes, Commissioner, and we want to also thank the Public Works Department, everybody at the Outdoor Review Committee, the Planning Department, Walton County Sheriff's, South Walton Fire District. Everybody's always been really helpful for us to make sure that we're following all of the things that we need to do to make sure we have this event.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Any discussion from the audience? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Thank you, Kevin. Thank y'all for doing that, too. That's a great parade. Grover Short.
Grover Short, S-H-O-R-T. I'm just here to ask the board to consider taking over maintenance for American Court and Indian Cove subdivision.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, as we've done in the past, these requests, we request Public Works do their assessment and evaluation and then report back to the board. I'll
Okay.
make that in form of a motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Any discussion from the audience? All in favor say aye. Aye. We'll get back with you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, citizens' request. You can talk about anything you want.
Public comment.
Seeing none,
Let's take a recess.
we're going to take a recess. What, 20 minutes? 30 minutes? 20 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Matt Carpenter for the Planning Department, C-A-R-P-E-N-T-E-R. First two items on our planning agenda tonight are administrative in nature. The first of which is we're requesting approval from the VCC for a 3-year agreement between Walton County and the West Florida Regional Planning Council, now known as the Emerald Coast Regional Council, for the administration and implementation of the State Housing Initiatives Partnership Program, commonly known as the SHIP program. This is a renewal of a 3-year agreement.
What's the board's wishes?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, any discussion from the audience? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay.
Thank you, Commissioners. Item number 2 is a request for approval from the BCC for a 3-year agreement between Walton County and Habitat for Humanity of Walton County, Florida, for the administration and implementation of the SHIP program replacement housing strategy.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Any discussion from the audience? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay.
Thank you, Commissioners. Legislative item number 3, Seagrove Horizons LLC. This is a small-scale amendment request. Request approved by ordinance. It was reviewed by Bob Barante. Submitted by Interlight Engineering on behalf of Seagrove Horizons LLC. They're requesting approval to amend the comprehensive plan, future land use map, and zoning district from residential preservation to neighborhood commercial on approximately .14 acres. The project's located on the south side of County Road 30A and identified by the parcel number in your package. You may recognize this as the presently vacant lot immediately to the south of the Surfing Deer near the corner of 30A and 395. The present zoning requires a single-family home to be constructed there as the primary use. They're asking to change the future land use and zoning category to allow a commercial pool to be sited there for the benefit of the condominium association that's on the second floor of the Surfing Deer building.
What's the board's wishes?
And if we could also request that the ordinance be amended to provide for a restriction to a use of a commercial pool. This is at the request of the applicant, and it was a recommendation from the Planning Commission, and I think the applicant is in concurrence with that.
Mac, the first floor there at the intersection, is that the view or whatever they call it?
That's the Surfing Deer this year. It was the V in years past.
Okay.
But I think for the last 2 years, it's...
So that's just to build a pool for that?
It's to build a pool for the condominiums that are above the restaurant.
Right.
So that would be one of the conditions.
Yes, ma'am.
Motion we approve with the stipulation that it stay a commercial pool.
Second.
Now, if it's a commercial pool, is it open to public? It is not, just,
No, sir.
just the condo.
It is a private amenity for that condominium association.
Okay.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Any discussion from the audience? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay.
Thank you, Commissioners. And Mr. Jones was kind enough to remind me that we skipped item number 43 from the regular agenda, and that is a request to approve and authorize the chair to sign a satisfaction of a SHIP mortgage.
Satisfied SHIP mortgage?
Yes, they
I put it into the agenda, and I don't think I had very much information in there. So it was a 15-year term, and they've exceeded the 15-year terms.
So we want to satisfy what they got.
Yes.
So moved.
Yes, they've lived there long enough to satisfy the forgiveness.
Second?
Second.
All in, any discussion? Any discussion from the audience? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay.
Thank you, Commissioners. That moves us to the quasi-judicial section of the agenda tonight.
Okay.
And we've got a request to continue each of these 4 items to June 27.
So moved.
Second. Do you need to do them separately, or?
No, you can do them all together.
Which ones are they?
This would be Alice Beach Block BB plat, number 46, Alice Beach Block CC plat for 14 lots, the Herons Crossing Phase 2 plat, which is an 8-lot townhome plat, and the Palms at Inlet Beach plat, which is a 6 residential lot plat on approximately 1.11 acres.
What's the date we're moving?
Would be June 27th, which is our regular QJ meeting this month, which will be at 9 a.m. in this location.
I'll second the motion.
Any discussion? Any discussion from the audience? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
We're adjourned.